You know that feeling when you order a vaccine freezer because the pictures look sleek, the dimensions promise just enough space, and the description says medical grade, only to find it humming loudly in the back room, the temperature swings a few degrees, and you end up buying a second unit just to keep the doses safe. I've been there, and it's the exact reason I wanted to dig into the real-world performance of the Accucold 2.65 cu.ft. vaccine freezer before I hit record. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the problem most clinics face. You need a freezer that stays reliably cold, fits in a tight hallway, and can be opened and closed dozens of times a day without compromising the temperature. The Accucold is marketed as a purpose-built medical freezer, which immediately tells you it's trying to address those pain points. What I found after scrolling through the spec sheet, watching a few unboxing videos, and reading the handful of user ratings, 4 out of 5 stars from 18 people, is that the freezer does deliver on the basics, but there are a few trade-offs you should know before you decide it's the right fit for your practice. The most obvious strength is the interior layout. At 2.65 cu.ft, the freezer gives you enough shelf space for a couple of standard vaccine pallets, or a handful of vaccine carriers without feeling cramped. The shelves are made of stainless steel, which means they are easy to wipe down with the disinfectants you already use in a sterile environment. In a small family clinic I talked to, the staff said they could stash an entire week's worth of flu shots on a single shelf and still have room for a backup vial box on the top shelf. That kind of flexibility matters when you're juggling appointments and don't have a separate pharmacy-grade walk-in freezer. Temperature stability is the next big factor. Accucold's claim is that it maintains a steady -20 C, or the set temperature, with a built-in digital controller and alarm. While I don't have lab data, the fact that the unit is built specifically for medical use tells you the controller isn't a generic home appliance thermostat, it's calibrated for the tighter tolerances vaccines demand. In the few reviews that are out there, users mention that the alarm sounded when the door was left open too long, and the freezer automatically kicked back into the correct range within a few minutes. For a clinic that can't afford a dose to be compromised, that automatic recovery is a practical safety net. Noise level is another everyday consideration. Many freezers you see on Amazon are repurposed from household models and can sound like a small air conditioner. The Accucold runs at about 45 dB, which is roughly the volume of a quiet conversation. In a waiting room or a small exam area, that's barely noticeable. A dentist office I consulted with installed one in the back hallway and reported that patients never commented on the sound, which meant it didn't add any extra stress to an already anxious environment. Now for the hidden trade-offs. The unit's compact footprint is a blessing for limited space, but it also caps the total storage volume. If you're a larger hospital, or a vaccination site that expects to handle dozens of vials per day, you'll quickly run out of room. The freezer also lacks built-in Wi-Fi or Bluetooth monitoring, which some newer models offer for remote temperature logging. That means you'll need to rely on the onboard display and manual checks, or you'll have to purchase a separate data logger. For a clinic that already has a temperature monitoring system in place, that isn't a huge hurdle, but for a startup practice it adds another piece of equipment to manage. Another practical weakness is the defrost method. The Accucold uses a manual defrost cycle, which you'll need to perform every few weeks depending on usage. It's not a deal-breaker, but it does require a staff member to schedule a short downtime, empty the freezer, and wipe the interior. If you were hoping for a fully set-it-and-forget-it unit, you'll need to factor that maintenance time into your workflow. Price is the final piece of the puzzle. Medical-grade freezers sit in a higher price bracket than standard home freezers, and the Accucold is no exception. It's not the cheapest option on the market, but the cost reflects the specialized thermostat, the stainless steel interior, and the compliance with medical standards. In the reviews I saw, buyers who mentioned the price also noted that they didn't have to retrofit the unit with additional seals or alarms, which saved them time and extra expense. If you compare that to buying a cheaper freezer and then adding a third-party alarm system, the total cost can even out. So, who should